Yes, I'm back. And happy Thursday. Uh, if you've been following our exploits here, Constance and I had our. Here, let me polish the camera there. We had our COVID booster yesterday, and we're a little under the weather today. It happens every time. Constance and I both, our bodies react for a couple days after the shots and booster shots, but we always pull out okay. And we're very glad we did because yesterday afternoon's news when we got home uh, was that the newest strain of COVID is surging. It's the biggest surge, and yesterday there were 1,200 people in the United States died of it, and it's something that isn't being discussed too much, and I don't think we can probably expect it to be unless you sort of go out of your way to get the daily figures because it's an election year and nobody wants to panic anybody, much like it happened 3 or 4 years ago. Anyway, so I'm going to probably be not my frisky self, even though I look like it. I'm going to go right back into the warm bed and drink liquids and try to get some writing done today. Anyway, I've titled today's talk as "Thelemites Are Everywhere," and I've been tempted to pull this little piece of writing that I did many years ago for an OTO event, a gathering of OTO people who are Thelemites or assume that they are Thelemites. And I thought I would share it with you because I found it easily this morning. And it's something that's kind of timely because I've gotten messages quite regularly from people that consider themselves Thelemites and are well-meaning and are competent scholars and magicians and things like that, but who tend to view their Thelemicness in sort of an elite status of human being, as if non-Thelemites, and you can quote Crowley's saying that people that don't accept the law should be treated as troglodytes and things like that. And but obviously I don't see it that way, and I'm not sure that's a healthy way to interpret what Thelema is about. So here's just kind of excerpts from that little talk, and I'll start where I just flat out say Thelemites are everywhere, and then I quote the Book of the Law. It may be that yonder beggar is a king. A king may choose his garment as he will. There's no certain test. But a beggar cannot hide his poverty. I want you to think about that one little line right in the middle of it. A king may choose his garment as he will. There is no certain test. But a beggar cannot hide his poverty. Unquote. Obviously, there are many things that the Thelemites in this room have in common with one another, and many things we don't have in common with other people we rub elbows with every day. For example, most people in this room have identical libraries. We know how to correctly pronounce the word Crowley. Nearly all of us delight in tormenting Jehovah's Witnesses. Most of us own at least one black robe. First thing most of us think about when we see the Washington Monument is not George Washington. Most of us have at least one relative who thinks we're going to hell. Most of us do not own a new car. Most of us never top off our gas tanks. Most of us own at least one obscene t-shirt. Most of us say will and resh when there are other Thelemites present, and don't when they're not. Also, most of us avail ourselves of the magical teaching, techniques, and disciplines of our prophet, and we embrace in our own way and according to our own understanding a pantheon of exotic deities that personify the great cosmic facts of life. Of course, these things in and of themselves do not make us Thelemites. What differentiates us from our non-Thelemic neighbors is not the way we look, or where we live, or where we work, or how much money we make, or how we may vote or make love. What separates us from the rest of humanity is a simple variance in attitude. And here it is. As Thelemites, we focus our spiritual attention upon ourselves instead of deity. We seek to discover and accomplish our own will rather than the will of some God. This subtle shift of attention is what profoundly distinguishes us from the rest of humanity. And the person who has made this shift is a Thelemite. Whether or not he or she has ever read the Book of the Law or heard about Aleister Crowley or the Beast 666 or the OTO. It doesn't even matter what religion a person thinks they are. One either is or is not a Thelemite. For example, very few people who consider themselves Christians care enough about the specific articles of their faith or are spiritually committed enough to actually qualify as Christians. Forget labels. As long as a person is focusing their spiritual attention upon themselves rather than a deity, as long as a person is driven to discover and accomplish their own will rather than wasting their time trying to figure out their place in the will of some mythical god, then in the purest sense of the word, he or she is already a Thelemite. On the other hand, even though I consider myself a Thelemite and practice all the rituals of Thelemic magic, even though I may slash my chest open every sunset and say will at McDonald's and resh on the subway, even though I may pass out copies of Liber Al at concerts and talk with Art Bell on the radio, even though I say Apo Pantos Kakodaimenos every time I see a nun, even though I'm a bigwig in the OTO, even if I'm not truly focusing my energies toward discovering my will and then doing it, then I'm not a Thelemite. Which brings me to the second point. Thelemites can be discovered anywhere. From the Book of the Law, let my servants be few and secret, they shall rule the many and the known. Now, I'm sure we all consider ourselves among the servants, few and secret, who would rule the many and the known. But how many of us in our daily lives really do rule the many and the known? Certainly not I. Each day I go to work, and this is just, I'll pause to say at the time I wrote this, I was in my 8th or 9th year at working in the accounting department of a large global corporate real estate firm, a 9-to-5 job where I wrote 5 of my books. I'll back up. But how many of us in our daily lives really do rule the many and the known, secretly or otherwise? Certainly not I. Each day I go to work and find myself getting royally ruled by a few and sometimes secret hierarchy of individuals of means, who seem to be doing a far better job than I, trampling on the low men, dressing in fine apparel, and eating rich foods and drinking sweet wines, and if the office gossip is correct, love as they will, when, where, and with whom they will. Most importantly, these insensitive jackasses and prick-teasing prima donnas possess a one-pointed and unambiguous will to amass at least $1 million before the end of the year. And many of them are going to accomplish their wills. They may call themselves Christians or Jews or atheists, but they're not. Their God is money. And they serve and worship their deity with a devotion and passion that would put St. Francis to shame. What's wrong with this picture? Are these people I should look up? Are these people I should look down my spiritual nose upon just because their dynamic wills are currently focused on such a shallow and unspiritual goal as the accumulation of great wealth? Like probably everyone else in this room, I've dedicated my life to do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. I talk about it all the time. But these jerks, without caring anything about the law of Thelema or the book of the law or the Hebrew Kabbalah or tarot cards or Enochian aethers, these assholes are actually doing what they wilt. Without ever reading the 3rd chapter, they've latched on to its essence with a vengeance and are tearing us all new ones. Now, I'm not suggesting that every workaholic, starched shirt, loud-mouth, cuff-linked, over-cologned, yuppie bastard, laptop, Mont Blanc, greedy, call my lawyer, I need to stay late, put me on hold, let my people will call your people, condo landlord, client churning, land raping, sorry you've been downsized, backstabbing, union busting, overmoosed. Thank God I have to pause to turn the page. Overmoosed, perfume reeking, fur wrapped, Starbucks clutching, cell phone fascist, country club Nazi is a better Thelemite than I just because he or she drives an Infiniti and orders people around all day. But we should not ignore the obvious fact that individuals like this, some of whom are actually rather cool people, because of their own natural inclinations and the force and fire charged environment of the Aeon of Horus, are already exercising aspects of personal power, already focusing their wills, already striking hard and low, and assuming blatantly Thelemic attitudes and manifesting classic Thelemic aspects of character far more effectively than we are. It doesn't matter if they call themselves Christians or atheists. They don't have a clue what those words mean. It doesn't matter if right now they vote Republican or suck Pat Robertson's dick. These proto-Thelemites, who deserve our attention as much or more than members of the various modern spiritual and social subcultures, wouldn't it be nice if even a tiny percentage of these assholes could become aware that there is a name for what they are? Not a name for what they believe, but a name for what they are. Wouldn't it be nice if this awareness blossomed into an interest in what is formally known as Thelema? Wouldn't it be nice if they then focused a portion of their tremendous talent and energy of will toward their own enlightenment and the liberation of others? Wouldn't it be nice if they then channeled their energy and resources to help support their local lodges, the order, and the worldwide Thelemic movement? Which leads me to my third point, which is a question. How do we reach out to assholes and other proto-Thelemites with the glad word of Thelema? Before we try to answer that, it'll be well for us to remember that it's not everyone's will to be a Thelemic ambassador. As a matter of fact, I'd strongly advise anyone who has an overwhelming desire to bring others into the fold to thoroughly examine their motives. Missionary zeal is a mask often worn by the most insecure devotee. Argue not, convert not, talk not over much. Thelemites do not proselytize, but we're instructed to, quote, look forth upon men and tell them this glad word, unquote. If it's your will to be the bearer of the glad word to others, how do you go about it without proselytizing? Thelemic outreach must be very subtle because you don't work on other people, you work on yourself. As in magic and other aspects of our life, you have only yourself to work with. Quote, O be thou proud and mighty among men, lift up thyself, for there is none like unto thee among men or among gods. Unquote. The strength of your character is the most powerful weapon you possess. Your other weapons are your wisdom, your sense of humor, your peace of mind, your relative happiness, your emotional stability. Use the 4 powers of the Sphinx, Luke. Know. You must first of all know who you are. You must be confident and comfortable with your life as a Thelemite and your self-identity as such. Will. You must will to be happy. Dare. You must dare to create a rich quality of life, no matter how modest your resources may be. Then, like a carrier of typhoid, you must share your happiness and your unique life with those around you, your family, your friends, your co-workers, and believe it or not, your community. Silence. Finally, you should cultivate the self-control necessary to keep silent concerning philosophical or spiritual matters until such a time that others around you are prepared to respect anything you say. How can you get people to respect anything you say? Not by making them think you know more than they know, but by making them realize, even if only subconsciously, that you are something more than they are. In the early 1970s, I was privileged to study for a time in Hollywood with the great method acting coach Lee Strasberg. The theory of the Stanislavski method is in essence very simple. In order for an actor's performance to be convincing, something truthful must be going on in the actor's mind. It can be anything going on inside. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the play or the dialogue or even the character's emotional condition. Some emotional truth must be engaging the actor's inner life. And the truth of that engagement is visible to the soul eyes of each member of the audience, who will recognize the generic truth when they see it. The audience then interprets that truth, and then it's the audience that projects truth upon the actor's character and their place in the play. The supreme something that should be going on inside you is the awareness of your own will. It is the ultimate truth that should engage your inner life. When you're focused on your will, your audience of friends, co-workers, and community will see that primitive, generic truth with their soul eyes and prepare themselves to receive the message of truth through everything you say and do. Does that make sense? I've never consciously targeted anyone for Thelema assassination. Thelema assassination. But over the years, I've introduced a great many people to Thelema. Some of them have gone hog wild like the rest of us and joined the AA or the OTO, or both. Others, of course, have just gone crazy. Most of them have simply grown a little in self-realization and tolerance. In both cases, I think the world's a better place and the Thelemic environment because of their conversion. No two Thelemic ambassadors can operate exactly in the same manner. Each of us has unique work and recreation environments. Many years ago, I worked a modern 9-to-5 office job. But I think many of the things I'm about to suggest could apply to just about any of us. First of all, broaden your sphere of influence. Cultivate non-Thelemic, non-magical friends. If you're afraid that their non-Thelemicness will rub off on you, then you are presently not cut out for ambassadorship. Do non-Thelemic, non-magical things with them. Carpool to work, go to lunch with the gang, go to movies or concerts or sports events. You'd be surprised to find out how many things you have in common with troglodytes. Be active in non-Thelemic clubs and associations. Most obvious are things like the SCA, the Society for Creative Anachronism, which is fun, and various tarot or pagan societies. But don't be afraid to really branch out. If you love to read, attend the discussion group organized by libraries and bookstores like Barnes & Noble. If you love herbs, Join the Royal Society of Herbalists or any of the gatherings sponsored by your local health food store. If you're a vegetarian, find or organize a vegetarian club. If you love movies, join a critics club. If you love music, take lessons or join a band. If you love to dance, take dance lessons. You see where I'm going with this? There are many worlds out there that can have nothing directly to do with Thelema or magic or Crowley that you can be an active, productive citizen of. Enjoy yourself, but be warned. Because you're a Thelemite, you're likely to end up ruling some of those worlds. Quote, they shall rule the many and the known, unquote. Once you've broadened your sphere of influence, what do you do next? Quotes from Book of the Law, lurk, withdraw upon them, and success is thy proof. I know you might believe the Book of the Law instructs us to pass out copies of Liberal to everyone we're having dinner or drinks with. But you might want to pause and consider whether or not anyone is going to seriously examine your philosophy and beliefs if they think you're a nut. So I suggest, except on rare occasions, you don't wear your Thelema on your sleeve. Remember how you hate it when Christians rub your nose in the fact that they are Christians? Now, what I'm about to say will probably sound unbelievably egotistical and manipulative. It is. But it's the best way I know to bring assholes and other non-Thelemites to a place where they happily accept, and if it be their wills, embrace your blasphemous and bizarre philosophy without batting an eyelash. I have what I call my 7 barefaced manipulations, which seem to come natural to my Cancerian Queen of Cups personality. Barefaced manipulation number 1. Let people get to know you. It sounds simple, but for many of us, it's very hard to reveal ourselves to others. It should get easier as you grow older. And more prone to farting in public and not caring. That wasn't part of my talk. That just blurted out. Barefaced manipulation number 2. Try to be pleasant, even around people you think are complete idiots. It's not only a good ploy, it makes you feel good, too. Barefaced manipulation number 3. Don't be afraid of small talk. For most people, it's the only kind of talk they know. You have plenty in common with most everybody. You might even learn something. Talk about kids, the weather, TV shows, movies. Stay clear of religion and politics. Don't tip your hand too early. Barefaced manipulation number 4. Listen to people. Find out about them. Ask them about themselves. Everyone loves to talk about themselves. Let them ramble on. The more they talk about themselves, the more they think they understand about you. I'm going to repeat that. Barefaced manipulation. Everyone loves to talk about themselves. Let them ramble on. The more they talk about themselves, the more they think they understand about you. I don't know why that is. It just works out that way. Barefaced manipulation number 5. Lure them into thinking you agree with them on just about everything. It's tricky, but you can do this without being too dishonest. You mainly have to know when to keep your mouth shut or change the subject. When people believe you agree with them about everything, they'll think you're a genius. They'll soon drop their defenses and take your unwavering wisdom for granted. After all, you think just like they do. Barefaced manipulation number 6. If the subject of religion comes up, let them do all the talking first. When you do start responding, do so, if possible, as if you were speaking from within the context of their belief system. It's ideal if you could make them think that perhaps you come from the same religious background they do. For example, if they're Christian and you were raised Protestant or Catholic, you can share little anecdotes and your experiences. Why, once at Sunday school, I was found shooting dice. Okay. Finally, barefaced manipulation number 7. After you've laid the groundwork, maybe for months, after people are comfortable with you, after they expect to be tickled by almost anything you say, after you've lurked and withdrawn, then upon them. Stepping out of the closet is the most fun thing in the world. But you have to look for the perfect moment, and you most likely will not want to come completely out at first. Here's an example of something I've done at the office when I know the time is right. I've doodled a few things in Hebrew and left them laying around. The question inevitably arises, Lon, are you Jewish? No, I reply, I'm Gnostic Catholic. I know a little Hebrew from my study of Hebrew mysticism. And then I change the subject and let them chew on that. Now, if you've laid the groundwork well, you've got them. Nobody is likely to know what a Gnostic Catholic is, but it sure sounds like a real heavy church. Unless you're working around some pretty Orthodox Jews, nobody is likely to know much about Hebrew either. And for the study of Hebrew mysticism, well, you can be sure you're the only kid on the block with that toy. All of a sudden, you will have transformed yourself in the eyes of your colleagues from a pleasant co-worker to someone who takes religion quite seriously, someone who studies, someone whose grasp of spiritual reality perhaps dwarfs their own. Somebody who maybe, just maybe, may help them find what they've always been afraid to look for. Then withdraw. Don't rub it in. Don't come completely out of the closet. Withdraw to being the pleasant comrade or employee. Field any question they may have honestly, but make no moves to offer more information than necessary. It's best if they feel at first it might be impossible for them to ever penetrate your spiritual world. Refuse good-naturedly to be drawn into a kind of doctrinal debate. If they insist, tell them that your religion doesn't proselytize or attempt to gain new members. That gets them every time. It's good to remember that there are very many people who could happily embrace the law of Thelema without ever becoming interested in magic or the Kabbalah or the secret of the ninth degree. All that is preventing them from declaring to the world that there is no law beyond do what thou wilt is the fact that they've been so busy mastering their wills they haven't had time to notice there is no law beyond do what thou wilt. They're just going to go through life doing their wills and waiting for some observant person like you or me to have the courage to approach them and say, there's a name for what you are. You're a Thelemite. Do you know what that is? Okay, that should have been a Sunday sermon. But anyway, I'm going to get out of the cold office and into a cold bed for a while and continue to pamper myself and encourage Constance to pamper herself too. And we're going to snuggle up and try to have a pleasant day. So until tomorrow, when I hope we're both feeling better, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other, and get vaccinated. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.